and sit down.
Yes, sir, we promised you a great main event here tonight.
Now I want a nice, clean game. From all of you.
That's great. Come call us the R word.
Yeah, even has moments of integrity.
But this has been awesome, and we should do this again.
You're funny.
Are you not entertained?
ETF murdering people.
Is this not why you were here?
With the plan to exterminate the Jews of Europe.
A radical libertarian.
Things on homosexuality and stuff, or just the petty little things that
I'm gonna hop in here real quick.
Like, fucking yes, obviously I did that. And
Welcome to Fite Club.
This is FSM.
Checking. There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Fight Club. Sorry, starting off great. As you know, the first rule of Fight Club is to tell every single person you have ever met in your entire life about this. So don't forget to like the video, share it around to all your friends, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any great interviews or debates here on Free Speech Media. And we will bring up our fighters here in just a second. But first, we have a couple of quick words from our sponsors. First up, MyArkit. Save your digital legacy for generations. Don't just save your pictures where they are at risk of being censored, deleted, or lost. MyArkit gives you security and privacy at a great price while telling the whole story in your own voice and writing. Unlike a cloud backup to just dump all of your random pictures, MyArkit has you upload one full memory at a time. A picture or short video post with text and or audio captions create a timeline that makes going back through your memories an easy and pleasant experience for you and your loved ones. Sign up for a 30-day free trial today and see what all the craze is about. No payment info necessary. True free trial. And if you use promo code FSM at checkout, you'll get 10% off when you actually do end up paying for it. And that is MyArkit, MyArkit.com, promo FSM. And of course, as always, Blood of Tyrants wine. If you're looking for a nice night in while also sipping on the blood of your enemies and helping tear down the tyrannical state, look no further than Blood of Tyrants wine. You can choose between a Merlot and or a Pinot Grigio, and now they have an energy tea out, so go check them out, bloodoftyrants.wine. Again, promo code FSM is going to get you 10% off at the end. But without further ado, we have an awesome show for you guys tonight. Introducing first, the reigning champ and chair of the LNC, Angela McArdle, and to her right, the director at large of the LNC and former chair down in Florida, Stephen Nekhaila. And next to me, former chair of the LNC and the great state of Indiana, Mr. Mark Rutherford. Welcome to the fight.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, David.
All right, so we are going to start off super simple and just go in that same order. Very quick, shortened version. Why you're a libertarian? What got you into this mess? Starting with Angela.
Why I'm a libertarian?
Yeah, just, your short little testimony.
Sure. Well, I became a libertarian over a series, I think, of several years. When I was a teenager, I had a conversation with someone about, what libertarianism was, and I decided, oh, that sounds like me, and so I considered myself a libertarian. Basically a conservative who was okay with gay marriage and legal weed. And, a few years later, I read The Creature from Jekyll Island and had a worldview imploding moment and realized that the entire government is a sham. Our economic system is a fraud, and evil people ruled the world. And so I, basically had a, meltdown and hid in my house for a week and slowly recovered. And then a few years later, Ron Paul ran for office and or for president. And I realized, oh, there are a whole bunch of other paranoid people who hate the Federal Reserve in the world. And then I discovered the Libertarian Party and found out there was a whole party dedicated towards it. So that's how I became a libertarian.
Nice. I love it. Short and sweet, too. Stephen, how about you?
So this is going to sound really weird.
I was 15 years old, and I picked up my first copy of Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin.
Good book.
Blew my mind. I've probably purchased 20 copies and given them away. It's somewhere over there. Um, totally shattered my worldview, and went through a bunch of rabbit holes. I actually emailed Mr. Griffin as a young man and said, "Hey, gee, I want to change the world. I want to do something to try to make things better. What can I do?" And he pretty much succinctly said, "No one knows you better than yourself. You're the best person to know what you can do to be the change you want to see." So found Ron Paul in my late teens. Of course, he didn't get the nomination, unfortunately. I did visit Paul Fest in Tampa, discovered Gary Johnson and the Libertarian Party, said, "Wow, hey, there's people out there that are just like me. I've never found anybody that agrees with, all the things that I agree with." And, discovered the LP, changed my voter registration, got involved with Young Americans for Liberty at FIU, chaired the chapter there for a few years. Got a call one day by my buddy Mike Kane down in the Keys. He said, "Hey man, I see you're on the voter rolls. Do you want to, get involved in the LP?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" And we started the LP Florida Keys chapter. So that pretty much is how I got involved with the Libertarian Party.
All right. I love it. Mr. Rutherford.
Yes, thank you. I'm Mark Rutherford from Indianapolis, Indiana area. Work in Indianapolis, live in a suburb just north of it called Carmel. I've been surrounded by the Libertarian Party for a very long time. First I heard about it was my dad was a political columnist, among other things, for the Indianapolis News, and he wrote columns on politics for many, many years. And he was talking about the Libertarian Party forming. I remember that. I remember reading about that. And he kept talking about this group that's forming. And as I was 12, 13 years old, as I kept getting older, learning more, we didn't call it libertarian beliefs, but we did have libertarian beliefs. And when I was in college, 1980, Clark for president, a lot of my fraternity brothers volunteered to pass out literature in the community we were in. But my background was very strong in another political party. My parents were. And in the early 90s, I realized that party was not going to change. And it was not libertarian. And that I started giving money and supporting libertarian candidates. And finally, I heard Harry Brown in probably 94, 95 on radio in Indianapolis. Very, very impressed with him. He was our presidential candidate in 96 and 2000. And from there, I joined in 1996 and started getting more active and very active in 1998, and it's been on that trail since then. And you said that I was a Libertarian National Chair. I have not been. I've been the Vice Chair of the Libertarian National Committee, just to make that clear on that.
Thank you.
But so that's why I'm a Libertarian. I've always been a Libertarian, always had these very similar beliefs. And it was nice to find that there was a group that was beginning to go, this is the way it should be. And I'm going, yes, this is the way it should be. And I'm a life member and have been a member since 1996 of the Libertarian Party.
Hell yeah. All right. So next question is going to be kind of a part two of that. Go through a little bit of your resume since you joined, but I'm also specifically curious how your time active in the party affected how maybe radical / pragmatic / anarchist to minarchist you are. Was it a white pill or a black pill getting involved in the party? And we'll go backwards. So starting with Rutherford.
Right. Well, first of all, the labels, I think, are misused a lot of the time. I'm a big believer in addition rather than subtraction. We have all types of different people about where they want to be, what they want to do. And the whole idea, for example, Libertarian National Committee is deciding what your priorities are going to be. There's a lot of them that are out there. You have to make those decisions and do it in a very reasonable way. So being active in the party, and if you're taking leadership, I've been many different committees, involved in many different campaigns, state chair of Indiana for 7 years. You spend a lot of time on it. So you have to partly enjoy it from the standpoint that you think you're helping and you're making things better. But it is very important that you do it and you work hard. And it takes a lot of time, but it's time I'm willing to do and time I'm willing to continue to put into it. One of my very best pleasures was working on the 2020 Rainwater for Governor campaign, where we got 12.5% roughly of the vote in Indiana for governor. And we were second place in 1/3 of the 92 counties for governor. So it was quite an experience. It says that if you do what needs to be done, reach the voters, you can get to where you need to be.
Hell yeah. Stephen.
So I think to answer that, part of it is intellectual, because we are a political philosophy, as well as, what we've actually done for the party. Back in FIU, I joined a group called the Rothbardian Circle when I was still part of Young Americans for Liberty, composed a group of Rothbardians, people who like Murray Rothbard, some Mises Institute grads. One was a student of Walter Block out in Louisiana. So we had a lot of interesting guests. We had a lot of interesting discussions, and that definitely made me a lot more radical. I consider myself an anarcho-capitalist, an Austrian libertarian. You have to approach things with a certain tact. I think education is really important when you introduce people to the philosophy. But what Javier Milei, for instance, has done, he's an Austrian libertarian ANCAP. That's my guy. As far as my party resume, founded the LP Florida Keys back in 2014 as a treasurer/secretary, still a part of that. Joined LPF in 2015 as Region 14 representative, covered Miami-Dade and Monroe. Stayed in that position till 2019. I became director at large briefly, and then transferred to treasurer when they needed me to step up to the plate. Did that, kind of rebuilt got us complied, and all these different fun things that had to happen to get us through some tough times. Had to go to Tallahassee at least once, got us through that. Became chair in 2020, chaired the party, LPF, or excuse me, actually it was 2019, became chair till 2023, so 2 terms there. That was, my bread and butter. Had a great time as chair, got to make us a lot of money. I think we integrated well. There wasn't a lot of infighting during that time, where in some places there was. Everybody seemed to get along for the most part, and we were pretty effective. We did fairly well during that period. I think we still continue to do well. 2016, I got involved with the LNC in Orlando, became Region 2 alternate. Then the next year became Region 2 representative, and then 2020 it became at large. So during that time, been on a lot of committees. Currently EPCC chair, deal with a lot of employment stuff. Been on the affiliate support committee, chaired several other, or excuse me, been a part of several other committees. Just a whole lot of stuff that, over the past 8 years and even 10 years almost, with the LPF and LP Florida Keys. So been on the LP as long as I've been able to drink.
Hell yeah. Angela.
Can you re-share your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
What is your resume in the party, and how has it changed your philosophical views, since you joined?
How has it changed my philosophical views? So in the Libertarian Party, I've had a bunch of titles. I've been the California State Secretary. I've been the chair of the LA County Libertarian Party. That's the 9th largest affiliate in the country, by the way. Like it's bigger than most state affiliates. It's pretty significant role there. Worked to get the vaccine mandates overturned in LA. We were successful in that. I've run for Congress twice, California's 34th district. I didn't win, but I didn't come in dead last in the first one, and the last one I did, but it was 3rd place. I've been the chair of the national party now for nearly 2 years. How has it changed my philosophical perspective? I mean, I think that it's made me hate democracy more and have like a contempt for bureaucracy. But I don't think that it's necessarily changed my libertarianism. Yeah, and I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe there are some people who've moved from minarchist to anarchist in the party, but I'm not really sure how it would change my philosophical underpinnings. Like I am an anarchist. I do not believe that any government can be anything except morally bankrupt and evil. It's also at the same time not the hill that I'm going to die on. I don't like to lean into the minarchism versus anarchism argument within the party. I think that if we were to return to constitutional governance, it would be such a radical, earth-shattering paradigm shift that we wouldn't even know what to do with it. So it's just, it's not like a big argument for me. I think there are other arguments within the party, but I don't, necessarily think that that should be the end-all be-all argument. So I hope that answers that question.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, I know I definitely moved down that anarchist pipeline quite a bit since I joined. I was like uber prag, blue pilled person when I first joined. So my next question is what makes you want to be at the helm of an organization like the LNC and paint the target on your back that this inevitably paints? I think all of you guys have had enough experience to know what this target looks like and how crazy it is. What makes you want to do that? I'll start with Steven.
Must be some type of sadomasochism. I think being the chair of an organization like the LP, or even being on the board of an organization like the LP, is a pretty thankless job. It's a job that I think no matter what you do, there's always going to be people that are going to not appreciate you for it, and you can only do wrong in a lot of people's eyes. But I do believe that for an organization like ours, the real metric of the success of the LNC is looking at the LNC as an organization, as a nonprofit, and quite frankly, I think that's something that that I want to see in terms of growth, in terms of becoming the centrifugal force of liberty within the United States, in terms of doing our job at a time that's perilous, and being the torchbearers of the philosophy, and also supporting the cause on three fronts. I think the party exists, number one, to gain political power. What makes us different is we want to gain political power not as a means to an end, but to safeguard liberty. Those without power cannot defend freedom, so we have to take power. Number two is to spread the philosophical ism, that is libertarianism, to spread the philosophy. That's why I think a lot of people make a big deal about messaging, because they want a certain way for the party to be perceived and received and spread. And third, we want to influence policy, and I think that's what the party aims to do. And the LNC is sort of the body that is the engine behind that. The reason I'm running for chair, or the reason I'm willing to run for chair and willing to paint my target on my back, is because I think our mission is just. I think it's a righteous cause. I think it's truly one of the highest callings in many of our lives, Libertarian Party members, is to have this fight for liberty. I think there's a fire in the belly of many libertarians that drives us to do this, many times thankless act of being a part of the party. And personally, I want to see the party successful. I want to see the board successful. I want to see staff successful, and I want to see our mission be successful. So, to that end, I'm willing to throw my hat in the race, and that's what's driving me to take this plunge into what would definitely be a very thankless, tough job.
Hell yeah. So I'm not sure what's going on, but apparently we're not on YouTube, but there's a Rumble link in the chat. A couple of people have posted it. I can see going over there. That one worked fine. Normally it would be the other way around. But I'll figure that out, and it's recording, so I'll upload it to YouTube later. But go click the Rumble link in the description. It's better than YouTube anyway. Angela, what makes you want to keep going with this?
2 years ago, I toured the country to explain my vision for the LP, to share that and talk about how we can turn the LNC into a functional organization so that we can work effectively to bring a freer world into our lifetime. Talked about what a beautiful vision I had for the LP, to be anti-war, pro-peace, pro-medical freedom, and to get back to our founding. The founders of this party, David Nolan and all of his gang, founded the party to be radical. And if you doubt that, there's so much documentation of it. And we have worked to move the Overton window in the direction of freedom. And through fighting, infighting, outfighting, technical challenges and hurdles, we are thriving right now front and center in the national political conversation. We are the most powerful voting bloc in the country. We are radical and have put us here in this radical position, and we are spreading libertarianism. I love doing this. I'm your chair, I'm your leader and your servant, and you got to have a servant's heart to do this, and that's what I've got. I will do the toughest jobs. I think my purpose in life is to pick up the biggest burden I can and carry it forward as far as I can. I will give you guys my time as I have, I'm going to just do it all over again. I love being in service to the party and furthering liberty, and I love the advances and accomplishments we've made so far. I'm ready for round 2.
Hell yeah. Mr. Rutherford.
Well, I've got the background to take a party to give a national board what it needs to have. And the national board needs to be functional. It needs to be polite with each other. It needs to be able to raise money to get things done. And it doesn't run the show. The national party is more effective by making sure and supporting the states so that they can work with their affiliates, that they can work with their counties, their parishes, their townships, et cetera, to run candidates. Candidates being elected or because of their good campaigns get nominated for public office by other candidates who do get elected, to be able to have a seat at the table and to make changes that get us into a government that is not as bad as it is now, that it is more libertarian, and I see it. I have been appointed by Republican governors to the Indiana Public Defender Commission since 2007 as a non-Republican. They can only appoint 2 of their 3 can be Republican. The other has to be a Democrat or Libertarian. Since 2008, I've been chair, and I'm proud of it. We run it from the 30,000-foot level on the board. We don't do the day-to-day. We hire good staff. We pay them well. We tell them, what do you want to do? What should we do? We make agreements on it. We talk about it, change it, maybe at a meeting. We meet 4 times a year is all. We don't have numerous executive sessions. What we do have is we give guidance. We're there with our contacts. We set the 30,000-foot level. We hire excellent people, and we make sure that they do the job. That is what you do. That is what needs to be done. The philosophy comes from the good candidates. If you look at other parties, they're the ones that raise it, talk about it, and there's lots of different types of people who are involved in the Libertarian Party. All of these philosophies are fine. All of them have values about what is a libertarian, but you nominate libertarian candidates and you have them do that. The messaging is important. You're going to have the national chair, hopefully, is asked to be on national network and stuff. I do have contacts with that. I know, and so you have to do that. That's important. But what's more important is that you help the states do that. And I've got the background to do that. I've been all types of things. And I just kind of talked a little bit about my resume, but I'm a litigation attorney, a business lawyer. And targets are always on your back. It's no big deal. It's something you deal with. And if you want to be successful, that's there. But quite frankly, a lot of people have thanked me over the years for what I've done, and I appreciate it. And that makes it all the more worthwhile.
Fair enough. So to the best of my knowledge, all of you guys are running on at least a partial slate. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys have a vice chair.
I'm not running on any slate.
Oh, okay. I thought you and Mimi were kind of doing a thing together.
I know Mimi. We've talked, of course, but she's running for vice chair. Okay. But we're not a slate.
Fair enough. So I guess the question will still apply, but I guess not quite as hard. Do you guys want to see like a swept election, or would you rather end up working with a more diverse board that has some of your people and some of your opponent's people? So I'll start with Angela on this one.
I'm running on an endorsed slate by the Mises Caucus, and that's my preference. There are also some people who are not on the slate who I work just fine with. But I've endorsed Hannah Goodman for vice chair, for example. Josh Lapka is also running. I adore Josh. We had a good conversation today. Yeah, I think that's about how I feel about that.
Fair enough. Stephen.
So obviously, last term I was endorsed by the Mises Caucus, and I've always been, familiar with them and work with them very closely over the years. Good group of folks. Work closely with the Mises Caucus in Florida, and I've also been on the board before the caucus even existed. So of course, for me, it's an honor to be endorsed or mentioned by the caucus. Obviously, this time around, I was endorsed for my current position, which is at large, and I'm authoring a different path by offering myself as chair of the party. So it may not be completely in line with the endorsement, but I certainly appreciate the support of the caucus and all that. Now, to your other question, as far as would we want to see a SWEP or this or that? I mean, there's a good group. I think to be honest, what we really need is a meritocracy on the board, and the most qualified individuals should be the ones to run the show. So in all positions, I mean, so really it comes down to the delegates and what they decide, and I hope that regardless of any caucus or party affiliate or caucus affiliation or this or that the most qualified people get on the board, because I've been on the LNC for 8 years. I've seen a lot of different LNCs, and like any organization, profit, nonprofit, you just want to work with the most experienced, best qualified people. Full stop. So there's some good folks that are obviously putting themselves out there on all sides. I just want to work with the ones who are most qualified and most able.
Oh yeah, Mr. Rutherford. I know you're not actually on a slate, but there's still
Right.
People that support you and people that support your opponents.
Of course, there always is,
Yeah.
for everybody. That's just natural on that. But I can work with just about anybody who wants to work hard, be reasonable, and by reasonable being knowing how to do debate, knowing how to be able, after having a battle at a meeting, and the battle is not nasty, it's just direct on what you want to do, and then going out and having a drink and dinner afterwards. Those are the most successful people that are out there, and I see that all the time. I have to do that. I'm dealing with Republicans and Democrats on the Indiana Public Defender Commission, and I think I deal with them quite well. And we do have sometimes disagreements, but we work through them. I get involved with the Indiana General Assembly on legislative issues. I have to talk to Democrats or Republicans and try to move them forward to where I think they should be. Can't always do it, but you try to find out what it is that makes them tick, what they want, and what you have that will help them, as well as satisfy their political needs on there, as well as yours. So you do have to do that. So I want the delegates in fair elections to be able to pick who they want, and whoever is picked on the Libertarian National Committee, I can work with them as long as they're willing to work with me and work with everybody else and do it in a peaceful manner. The most important thing, though, is the delegates need to vote for those who have the background and are most qualified for the positions. And that is really, really important. And that's what they need to do. And if they do that, then you can move forward. You can take fundraising and you can get it going to where it needs to be, where it's not been anywhere where it needs to be right now. There's so many things that could be done. You can increase your membership when you do it that way, when you act as the 30,000 foot level board of directors of a national organization.
All right. Similar question. How do you divide labor between the chair and the vice chair? Start with Stephen.
So when I was chair of LP Florida, I worked very closely with my vice chair. I've had 2 vice chairs I worked with for pretty well with them. I think, during that tenure, for the most part, we worked fairly well. And basically what I did was this, in my eyes, at least for Florida, the vice chair didn't have a specific duty, and the at-larges didn't have a specific duty. So I started giving them specific duties to carry out. We held 4 meetings a month. We held an officers call, we held our EC call, we held a general membership call, and then we had a committee chairs call. So I made sure my vice chair was on every single committee call so that he could read the room and report back to me and say, hey, this was going on with this and that. We got all of our people together multiple times a month to keep tabs on what was happening. And, that way, when things came up or needed to be addressed, or we need to work together or brainstorm or create new ideas, there was that flourishing of ideas in that space, that fertilizer to really be creative. And so going back to the vice chair bit, I work closely with my vice chair. I work closely with all my lieutenants, my folks that are the officers, the at-large, what have you, and delegated whatever needed to be delegated, so that they can be the most effective. I believe in putting your aces in your places. So, if somebody's good at something, you give them something to do, or you develop them into being the person who's good at that role. And I think I was pretty successful with that in Florida, and I'd like to see something similar on the LNC level, where the vice chair does have, a good amount of responsibility in whatever capacity I need them to help lead.
Hell yeah. Angela.
Will you share your question again for me since I'm last?
Yeah. How do you see the division of labor between the chair and the vice chair?
Well, the vice chair is there to support the chair. So the way that it works now is when I need help, our vice chair, Andrew Watkins, steps in. I think it's really important that you have a close relationship. The vice chair, is kind of like the vice president, right? There's so little listed. I feel like a lot of people you can have a variety of personalities, but it's a really great spot for someone to sneak onto a board who doesn't want to do jack shit, which is not ideal. And Andrew Watkins kind of got thrust into the position, and he's done a phenomenal job of actually doing work. It's a supportive role, really. And so, from my experience, having 2 people with really strong, like aggressive competing personalities is not a good fit. Having people who want to compete for ego and spotlight, it's not a good fit. Having an aggressive, authoritative, bossy vice chair, not a good fit. Andrew Watkins is a guy who just like keeps his head down, does his work, and he's fantastic. And then it makes me more comfortable being able to reach out. Another thing I think that is good though about the vice chair role is you need to have someone who is like going to be persistent and work to get work delegated to them. Because there are times where I'm so overwhelmed, I want to delegate work to him, and I'm just like hair on fire. Like I don't even have the time to pick up the phone call and ask him, and having him kind of break through that and say like, I'll figure it out. Just tell me 3 things you need. And I'm just like, ugh, and then he can go and do it. It's just incredibly helpful. So that's kind of how I view that. I like that it's loosely structured so long as you get the person who's the right fit and has like a servant's heart into that position.
Oh yeah. Mr. Rutherford.
Well, you have to talk to whoever's elected as the vice chair. And I'm a big believer in, there's so many things that the vice chair could do, that you try to find what it is they like to do, what they want to do, and you encourage them to do that and work on that. They can support the chair, they can do other things. They do have a job under the bylaws of representing the unaffiliated states, and it seems like there's always a state or two that's unaffiliated in one of the regions. So they've got some jobs that are delineated there, but there's a lot that they can do. And when it comes to personality types, I can work with almost any personality type as long as they want to do things, as long as they want to be reasonable. And by reasonable, again, I'm talking about knowing how to talk to people when you have disagreements and not calling them names and not getting to, and when you have a decision going, all right, it's my 3rd priority, not 1, but it's a priority. I will help get that implemented. I'll help the chair. I'll help the LNC do that. So it's just very important that you talk to that vice chair and do that. And you shouldn't be overwhelmed as a national chair, because if you have and you raise the money and you raise the volunteers and you have the right order of things and you push things down to the states for the states to do and let them do it the best they can, because they know their state better than we do, because they live there. I know Indiana way better than New York, of course. And so you have to have that, and you have to have good executive directors, you have to have good staff, and you have to find the money to pay them.
All right. Well, that kind of leads me into my next question, which is, what do you see as the relationship between the states and national affiliates? I'll start with Angela again.
What is the relationship between the state and national affiliates? Well, no one has really decided this definitively.
Right.
It's going to change depending on which state you ask. It's going to change depending on which LNC member you ask. It will always change, and so the accurate answer is that the relationship is fluid, and it's like a frustrating thing, and it's not an ideal situation, and that's the hand you're dealt with, and you get to deal with it. From my perspective, it's from my perspective, we provide resources and we support our state affiliates. And we also answer, we dive into things at the national level, national topics, federal issues, that sort of thing. We do that on behalf of the national party, but we also sort of do that on behalf of the states. So what have we done? And I'm sorry, I'm still getting blown up over Kennedy stuff right now. I'm distracted by that. We provide candidate support, right? Like we did, we provide voter gravity to the candidates. That's something that we've never done in the history of the party, but I think it's an important thing to do. We try to help the states with ballot access. They can't all make it on their own. So we have to try to pick up the slack. They don't have the funding, right? They don't have the resources. Sometimes they burn their people out. They have new leadership. They lose institutional memory. We need to be there to close the gaps. We've got candidate website templates that we provide now. I think that's a really critical thing. It's an easy thing for us to do. We provide candidate classes. We have twice monthly calls with our political director. That's what I think that we're here to do, and to help them just generally and provide guidance.
Yeah. Mr. Rutherford, you've touched on this a little bit already, but you want to give a nice bullet point answer.
Right. Well, I look at the states being way more important than the national party, and they have to have lots of leeway to do what they want to do. They know it better. I may disagree with it because of my experience in Indiana, but they may be correct. I have to accept that sometimes, that that's the case. I don't get upset with them. I don't do things about that. You've let the states do what needs to be done. And you're going to have disputes in states. You should, in my experience, and I'm seeing it happen over and over again, is you just let the states work it out among themselves. That usually tends to work. It takes time, and then it's very unhealthy, but it usually ends up with a lot of healthy results in the long term. That you just let that happen on that. This, what the national can do, it can't select the candidates for the states. The states know better than that, but it can help with training. It can ask the states what they want to do. It can do different things for different states, but it's not the one to have the candidates run the candidates. It's to help the states get what they need to do to be able to do that and do that well in their local communities.
All right. All right, we're moving slightly into more philosophical questions. These two.
Stephen.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. My bad.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I'll be brief. But as a Wendy's Dairy Queen franchisee, I kind of view the relationship between the LNC as the states as almost similar to a franchise relationship, where we basically charter. You're an affiliate now, and then the affiliates charter that to their counties. You're in a county affiliate now, and we're at the top of the chain. But of course, the way our organization is structured is we're libertarians. We don't want the states don't want the national party to necessarily dictate terms, as long as the states follow the bylaws. And I think the real purpose of the LNC is to provide value to the states. So how do we provide value? Ballot access has always been one of the biggest drivers. Actually, ballot access is the reason why the Libertarian Party is the third largest political party in the United States. Is because we've always had good ballot access. We've been very successful at ballot access. So I think that's one of our main key reasons for existing is ballot access, number one. Number two is affiliate going to be on lines of affiliate support. We want to be able to support our affiliates. Data, providing them a good CRM is something we can hopefully get to be able to do. Providing software, providing, you know, whatever it is, deals and other things that we can pass down. That would be great if we could provide that. But the number one thing, the top things I think the LNC really exists to do is to be a good steward of the party's resources, to hold our conventions, to do the basics, to get back to the fundamentals, and really just, you know, focus on functioning as a growth machine. A lot of the state parties, a lot of their donors go straight to the LP. They go to lp.org. When they say I'm a libertarian, they don't go to lpf.org. They go to lp.org. And those members, those dollars go to us. So how do we give that back to the states? Because they're the ones out there providing the real value. So how do we provide them value to be able to do their job? You know, a rising tide raises all ships. I do think the LNC needs to get to that point where we can provide more value. I think we still have a ways to go in terms of, you know, growing our organization to fully staff our organization to get to where we need to be financially, to be able to get to the point where we can really turn over value for the states. And until we get there, we're always providing sort of minimal value. But I think, at least for now, ballot access, you know, is certainly one of those key drivers.
Oh yeah, couldn't agree more. Sorry for almost cutting you off there. Now we're gonna get into a more philosophical question. This is one of the ones submitted by the good people over at the Christian Caucus. Should the LP be unapologetically libertarian, or should it be seeker sensitive in its approach? Angela.
We should be absolutely unapologetically libertarian. You don't have to be brutalist, but this is not a centrist party. It was not founded to be a centrist party. It was founded primarily to be a messaging vehicle as a rebuke to the Nixon administration, the war at Vietnam, and going off of the gold standard. The founders are very clear. Now, I think the party has evolved a bit to become a vehicle for providing candidate support and being a functional political party. And, you know, like I've done more hardcore candidate support than anybody has in the past 10 years as chair. We've got candidate template websites at shop.lp.org right now. We're coming out with a cheaper, more low cost, easier version of it as well. We've got voter gravity. We've got a very skilled professional political director. We've got online classes. We're holding candidate classes at convention. I've got you a new functional CRM. We're getting a new website. I have gone really hard in the paint on being professional, but I will never kowtow to watering down messaging or being so seeker oriented that we lose sight of the message. It's got to be 100% libertarian. It's got to be sincere. And guys, I have got to drop off soon because I have 10 million convention emergencies, and they're like, if we don't talk to you, something's going to explode. And I'm so sorry. That's just how it gets as it gets down to the wire with the convention.
Yeah, I've been there. No worries. Whenever you need to go. Steven. For the record, I'm bouncing around. I don't know who's gone first and last in what orders. This is very unfair, and I'm sorry, but not sorry. Steven, go ahead.
So good. I'm so offended. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the answer should always be, we have to be unapologetically libertarian. We have to be honest about who we are. And I truly believe that at times there's been attempts to try to water down our message to make us more marketable to the masses. You know, we're probably not going to get sponsored by Coca-Cola. We're probably not going to get that Pfizer money, nor do we want it. You know, we want to be unapologetically who we really are, and who we are as libertarians is we're radical. I mean, I think even the more pragmatic libertarians, the you know, the Bastiat, Hayek libertarians are very radical. I mean, if you read The Law, it's a very radical book. I mean, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there, man. I love that book. You get down to Rothbard, you get down to Mises, you get down to you know, a lot of great, you know, libertarians and anarchists. And of course, you can what they do well is they explain the points. If you're going to abolish the welfare state, what do you replace it with? How does mutual aid work? So I think it's important to be unapologetically libertarian and say, yeah, we want to abolish the welfare state, but we want mutual aid. And actually, we had mutual aid up until Social Security came out. And then why would anybody pay into mutual aid? So it all fell apart. But with mutual aid, people actually helped each other. There was a sense of community. There was a sense of pride. There was a sense of ownership in one's own life. They wanted to pay back into these services. It was something that tied communities together rather than this faceless Social Security system that's not even efficient at doing its job, right? So when it's explained in that way, we can be radical, but we also have to explain the message. Last term, I wrote an article that was published by the LP about the war going on in Ukraine and the involvement and why we should be not in NATO and why NATO is actually causing, furthering tensions in Ukraine with Russia that could lead to World War III. So it's not enough just to say we shouldn't be a part of NATO. You have to explain, you have to give the background, you have to give the understanding. Why do we have to abolish the TSA? Well, we can replace it with private security. Plus, they're terrible at their job. Plus, they violate our rights. So I think we must be radical, but we also have to be intelligent. And let's face it, we're a party of a bunch of intellectual nerds. And I say that endearingly. Let's use our capacity for knowledge and education to educate people while also being radical.
Yeah, could you repeat the question again, please? Well, I'm familiar with the seeker sense, especially with in church circles on that. But yeah, that's probably where it came from. That's fine. So I'm trying to understand the question and on that. But we're a political party. And if we want to be a niche group that is kind of happy with each other and salute each other because we got them again, we're not going to change anything. I'm a lawyer. I have to do jury trials. I work with legislators and other politicos out there that aren't on my team. They're on other teams. And I am able to work with other people to get things done and get closer to being a libertarian. And I don't think libertarianism is radical anymore. We're the middle. If you look at everything that's going on there, we're the middle. What we don't do well is what I have to do with a jury, and that's take a bunch of people who don't understand what is out there. They don't know they're going to. I've got only a certain amount of time to do it, and so you try to move them to that position, and you understand they will not know as much as you do about what's going on in the situation, and you focus on it, and you sometimes have to take time to do that. And you don't have to be able to go, oh, I got them. Wave your flag of libertarianism. I'm 100% libertarian. And they go, I have no idea what you're talking about. You've got to take that approach. You've got to be able to talk to the voters. The voters are what matter when it comes to getting candidates elected, and we're a political party. If we are just a nonprofit organization, then let's just become that. Unless we don't have all these things running candidates, et cetera, et cetera. We can become a nonprofit organization and just do that.
Save so much time and money on FEC reports.
Yeah, we do a lot of that. But if that's what the group wants to do, that's fine. I'll take my political knowledge and stuff and deal with it and get change made in other ways politically to do that and through candidates. But we aren't that way. I think what everybody wants is to see us getting more people like all of us elected or appointed to office so that we can make changes. I see that in Indiana. We've been working at it very, very hard for a very long time, for decades. And we know of about 39 people who have been appointed as libertarians to political office. I forget how many candidates we've had elected, but we've had 25 at least elected to all types of different offices here. And it makes a difference. It's amazing what happens when we're at the table and able to make change, that you just don't go in and say, hey, we've got to do all this stuff and quit all this stuff. You say, shouldn't we be changing this? Shouldn't we be going this direction? That's the best way to do it if you want permanent change and if you want to change the society to a libertarian society.
Yeah. I'm going to take the podium for a second to just kind of agree with you to the point where I think there are a lot of people, probably a lot of people watching this that have seen the LP as just a recurring nightmare failure of a thing that just never quite does anything. 1 to 3%ers, we hear those kinds of terms a lot. And unfortunately, not many of us actually get to experience what you're talking about, where somebody does get elected to city council and it makes a world of a difference. But where that does happen, it does make a world of a difference. And it is a huge win, both for the party and just for that town in general, for them to be able to be moving more towards liberty. I think way too many of us, myself included, as someone who lives in New York and in a party that doesn't run very many candidates and is not very successful at it, a lot of us just don't have that experience of what it's like to have like a Kara Schultz as your city councilwoman. That it's just a whole other thing.
Do you mind if I say something to that?
Please, go ahead.
I know it's a little open for me, but yeah, I mean, I think, I do think libertarians get tired of failure. I think, you're in the party for 10, 15, 20 years and you get tired of, just losing. And I think what we have to remember too as a party is that, internal party politics isn't a substitute for what happens externally. And I think that, people get, caught up in a lot of the internal stuff, great, okay, blah, blah, blah. You win, state with this or da, 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 da. Well, we have to drive the mission. The mission is outward. The mission is outside, right? So, I ran for office in 2020, ran for city council, placed third, but the one of the other candidates that I endorsed, I felt we had a lot in common. She won by 17 votes. So I feel like I had a lot to do with that. Got involved more and more in my local municipality, got really involved in the community, got on some city commission boards, and, I'm on the board of directors for the Key West Greater Key West Chamber of Commerce. And it's funny because when you get involved in your community and you start getting out there and people know you're a libertarian, but they start including you in things and you start building your network, and there's sort of the soft power. It's not always about the hard power. It's not always about winning elections and getting that vote, but there's a soft power that comes from being a libertarian and being involved in our local community. I had 2 opposing candidates, one Republican and one Democrat, tell me they're about to run for a position before they announced it to anybody else. When things are happening, I'm involved in that. I'm seeing things. I'm meeting people. I'm meeting very wealthy people. I'm meeting very powerful people. I'm meeting, very influential people. And I think, any libertarian listening to this, there is a sort of soft power in politics that can be achieved in your community, and that does eventually lead to hard power. So don't give up, and continue to run, continue to wear that L on your chest and be proud of it. But also, remember that the power to defend liberty is not just hard power; it's soft power too. And obviously, we want to achieve both.
Amen. Couldn't agree more. Guys, get out and get active in your local party. Stop giving a fuck about national chair and whatever. These guys don't matter.
Unimportant.
Completely unimportant. A couple of quick bullet points. Just give me like 30-second, 45-second quick answers. What do we do about the headquarters? Rutherford.
What do we do about it? Well, we have it. We've got all types of laws to deal with about what we do with it. And so one of the first things I'm going to be doing is looking to see what's being used for, how it's being used. I've looked a little bit into the laws about it, what you do with it, but we have it there. It is an asset, and you do need a physical headquarters. You don't need as large a one as you used to need now, but my law office, we don't have as large of office space, but we still have a law office. We still get together here. We still do stuff here. You still have to do that. Indiana just opened up a new a central office. It's great. Gives them all types of things and abilities to do things, meet, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, they do Zoom, but sometimes you need to be together to get things done. and you need to have space for your volunteers and your employees to work and do things. So it's there, it needs to be there, and you need to have something in the DC area, in my opinion. I've always thought that.
So we've had our headquarters in DC for a while now. It's paid off. We've got equity in the building, which is great. The problem with that building, if you've ever been there, it's basically 3 levels. So the square footage is very split up. We live in a world of remote work, so nobody utilizes it anymore. And even if they did, that means we'd have to pay them even more to be in DC to utilize the headquarters. We can't use it as a meeting space. We're no longer using it really for much of anything. We've moved our mail room somewhat digitally. So I do think we need a headquarters. I don't necessarily think it should be in DC. I'd like to get us outside of nuclear blast range, maybe put it somewhere much nicer, somewhere we could actually put a meeting room in and meet up, and somewhere a little bit less hostile to libertarians. I mean, I get being in the belly of the beast, but we've never actually benefited off being in DC.
What kind of cities do you have in mind? Where else?
I don't know. Somewhere more central, perhaps near a major airport that we can all convene at every once in a while. Maybe somewhere where it's cheaper, so we can, if we have staff, we can put in the office. We're not paying them 6 figures just to, have to live in the belly of the beast, where it's a little bit more affordable. And maybe we can even throw a gun range out back. I don't know. Just throwing out lofty ideas there. What if we took all of our historical preservation stuff, opened a little museum, gift shop, made a cash flow? Maybe we can have it make money for us in other ways. So if there's an opportunity to expand, maybe that's better than where we're at now.
Valid. What do we do? Or do we bring back the paper newsletter? Stephen first.
Yes, because the people with money are usually boomers who read the newspaper. And I say that endearingly and I say that lovingly, but it's the truth. People do respond to physical mail. I think we made a lot of money off physical mail. The money stopped coming in. So we do need to bring that back. We got to spend money to make money, and it worked. So that needs to be reinstated. Maybe it doesn't have to go to millennials, but if you're going to throw it in the trash, let's have you just get a newsletter through email. So let's see if we can save some money on it by not sending it to everybody, but we still need to send it to the people that give us checks.
Valid. Mr. Rutherford.
Yeah, David, you have to have the physical thing. The boomers, we still like it.
Yep.
We're still used to it. Although I get almost everything requested by email now, but it does make an impact, and it helps with fundraising, and it even does it with all age groups. You just don't have to do it as often with the younger people, but it does have an effect if it's well designed to occasionally send something out.
Mm-hmm.
We've got all different types of things that we can do. Let's use that for the fundraising, for the communications, to get the word out, etc. It doesn't all have to be the internet. It needs to have some paper in there, and the paper newsletter can do that if well produced.
Yeah, I still get a magazine, I think once a quarter, from my alma mater, and I usually read it. I don't give a shit about any of what's going on at that school. I dropped out because I didn't like it, but I'll still read it. It's like, yeah, what are you guys doing? This is cool.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm a millennial, so I already how do we kickstart fundraising quickly and get out of the financial situation that we are in currently? Mr. Rutherford.
Yeah, well, first thing, when I'm elected chair, is I've already asked people, we're calling lots of people with money and saying that if you really want to see change, you've got to start giving again or give more, and to do what needs to be done to keep this party going and going in the direction it should be. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of phone calls, a lot of personal meetings. And one of the reasons I'm a big believer that the headquarters being in DC is valuable, because it is where everything, when it comes to a national organization, political organization, needs to be, and the people we need to be talking to. There are people who are there who are libertarian, but they don't see what we're doing, what needs to be done. They need to be met with. That's where you start on it. It's a large country. You can have a regional office. It's not saying that, but I think the states can do that quite well. Indiana, its new office is going to help tremendously. Those are things that you could probably help get done and do. and then have good communication out there. But that's what you have to do. It's just a lot of hard work. But here's the other thing that is needed too. You have to have volunteers or paid staff better who look and are able to say, this is what this person likes. This is what about our organization that they should like and should be willing to support if they knew about us. You have to have the development. I've done a lot of work with development with different organizations, nonprofits, a law school, a college, and with the Libertarian Party of Indiana, libertarians generally, political campaigns, and it just takes a lot of that, and you just have to do it. And quite frankly, if you organize it well, everybody does their strength and it gets done and it's successful.
Yeah. Stephen.
So to kick off Operation Tourniquet, because we got to stop the bleed, I would like to see several, maybe 3 or 4 commission-based fundraisers to start going in and making contacts and going on a commission basis. Because right now we really don't have the resources to pay somebody to see the results that we want to see. So going in commission-based, I think, would be a good head start to get our fundraising effort off on a good footing. It's 2024. Everything comes down to data. So Hannah Kennedy, our operations person, she's fantastic, by the way. She mentioned in one of our last calls that a lot of the checks coming in are coming in from 2020. People who haven't donated in 2020 are donating now, or 2022, because they haven't been touched in years. We haven't reached out to them. We haven't made contact with them. A lot of that's due to the data. We need to know all of our metrics on retention. So when somebody ends because their credit card expires or they're past that yearly due, are we reaching back out to them asking them to cut another check? Because there's a lot of people that would just donate if you just make contact with them, and make contact several times if you need to. So we need to work on some systems to get that in place, to clean up our data. That has to be the priority because that's tied to fundraising. If we have better data, if we have to purchase better data, if we have to, upgrade our systems, which are all things we need to do to drive fundraising, that's what we need to do to get our retention rates up and to get our folks that haven't donated in a while back. Also, we need to get our staffing levels up. We have opportunities in staffing for fundraising. That's really where we need to hit it hard. All efforts, as soon as the new LNC comes around, need to be on fundraising. It needs to be specific. We need to know our metrics, and I think the board needs to be aware of what our metrics are. What's our metrics for retention? What's our metrics for, touches per person, or for, for how our data is being cleansed? We need to know that, and we need to make rapid steps to get all that straightened out, because that's been an opportunity for a long time. Not even done on this LNC, but on the last LNC too, and that needs to be our number one priority.
Easy segue. Is there a tech stack that you would like to work with and move the organization over to, or would you work with the current technology that we're using as far as phones, emails, CRM? I'll go other way. So, Stephen.
I'll drive a Civic or a Camry as long as it gets me to work. I'd like to drive the Cadillac, but we can't afford the Cadillac. So whatever works, and whatever is, our IT people say this is good, this works. I'm willing to listen to all the experts. I'm very tech savvy, but I don't know CRMs like the back of my hand. I'm sure I could learn, but a lot of that stuff is over my head, and we have a lot of very experienced, seasoned people that know it way better than me, that can probably explain a lot better, give the pros and cons, and whatever works, let's just go with it and get the job done.
Mr. Rutherford.
If you hire the right fundraising people for your staff, then you let them make the recommendations to the LNC about how the budget should look. Usually I'm a big believer in that you give budget so much for a project for fundraising, and then they say what they can do with it and what they're going to do with it, and you let them do it. And if they succeed, great. If not, you might have to make changes. But whatever is needed there, I've seen many groups, including the LP, buy Cadillac systems over the years. So it's just not the Libertarian Party that's done that. And if you're not big enough or organized enough to use it, it's a waste of money. I can drive a Civic, I can drive any old car that is good enough to get the job done and to move us forward. And once you get large enough, then it might be worth having some big fancy Cadillac type program. But we need programs that are good enough that move us forward. And I'm a big believer in that as well on that. So yeah, that's something you study. And if it's not working, you don't do it because it's your favorite program because somebody you know is on it or you've heard about it. That's very important stuff to study and to make a good decision about.
Definitely agree. I'm not good at the data stuff, but being in sales and marketing my entire adult life, I refuse to work in an organization that doesn't have a good data person behind me. If I'm calling through trash data, I will probably quit that job. So it's a big thing that I care about for sure, and I think people of all shapes and sizes in the party are also want to see a world where we have a CRM that people can use that makes sense, that has good data in it, which is something we haven't had ever. Another Christian Caucus question. Can a libertarian society flourish and exist, and can the liberty movement succeed on its own, or does it need to be tied to other social, societal values? Mr. Rutherford.
Yes to all of that. It's a very complicated thing about how you put everything together and do that. But yes, it can be very libertarian oriented. If you look about where the Libertarian Party started in 1972 and where it has gone and it's tracked, many things have been wonderfully accomplished. But for example, there are many opportunities with the African American community who I've seen polling on it. You've got a higher percentage of males that are basically libertarian than you do with other demographic groups in the United States. Yet knowing that, we haven't really reached out to them very well with just some exceptions. And so you have to work with all different types of people. It's a people business. And you've got to do something where they go, this is what I want. This will help me. Most people are more concerned about, can I afford buying a home? Can I send my kids to private school or a religious school or to college or something like that? They aren't as interested as we are in doing this stuff because for whatever reason it is. So you've got to reach them though, because they vote and you've got to convince them this is the way to go. So we can do that. And we're actually, I remember in the 2000 or 2001, where we got to the point where the advocates for self-government used to have a little thing that came out every month and saying, this is the newspapers or radio that talked about us. It got so huge, they quit it. Well, that's a huge accomplishment. When I first started hearing about libertarianism, people had no idea what it was. Now they get it wrong or they get it, but they've heard the word and they have some idea what it is. So these are major things to do and to get done. But we've got to do the stuff in a political party that a political party can do in organization, in the delegation of responsibilities, in the fundraising, the messaging, the marketing, all of that stuff to get it done. And we've got to keep doing it, and we've got to do it well. And sometimes it's been a big problem with libertarians to get people who will try to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
Could you ask that question one more time?
Yes. There it is. Can a libertarian society flourish and exist, and can the liberty movement succeed on its own, like thin libertarianism, or does it need to be tied to other virtues and societal causes?
You know, the thick versus thin libertarian argument has always been so interesting to me because
I hate it.
You know,
I would never have written this question. Fuck you, Jacob.
It presupposes that we can't get to a libertarian society unless everybody is, completely moral and, that, this and that. And to some degree, we have to ask ourselves, what are the prevailing ideas of a society? Because if our society is headed towards collectivism and we're trying to push it towards individualism, of course, we're going to clash with culture and society. And I think especially in the West, you know, there's certain influences that we've had historically, whether it's the church, whether it's Nietzsche, whether it's, you know, certain organizations within, you know, the US and Europe over the last several hundred years that have influenced thought and the direction that we're going politically, both to the positive and the negative. You know, liberalism, classical liberalism, I think it was birthed in the West. It started, you know, a lot of our libertarianism that we stand on today was a lot of it was brewed in Europe by French political philosophers, and it was experimented here in the United States. So I think, you know, we're a product of culture. We have to obviously, you know, interact with culture. We have to find ways, I think, asymmetrically to bring our message out there and to appeal to people. But there's also human nature, and human nature never changes. So no matter what the prevailing thought is, you know, you're always going to be contesting with human nature. You know, even the early popes wanted to conquer Italy, so they had ulterior motives. And you know, from a Christian perspective, you know, there's the world has changed in 2,000 years in many ways, and I think human nature stayed the same, and that's something that we have to keep in mind. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but you know, I think we do need to work with culture. We need to find ways to get through to people that live in the current times, because, you know, without being a part of the culture and without trying to push the culture, then, you know, we're kind of lost.
Fair enough. All right, I have a couple of slightly more antagonistic questions for you guys individually. I'm going to start with Steven. You ran on the Mises Caucus slate last time around, you know, with Angela, have supported her for most of the term. Now you're running against her and offering this other kind of voice and this other option. Why not speak up more as an at-large previously if you thought that there was a failure of leadership?
So a lot of Angela and we've had a lot of disagreements over things. We've butted heads more than once. We've always worked together, but there's certainly been disagreements, you know, behind the scenes, because there's sort of what's on the surface. You see the LNC list and what happens in the business list. Then you also have what's happening in reality behind the scenes, all the real work that's getting done, because we have meetings and when we talk on the list, it's not real work. And the party is bifurcated. We have the LNC, the board, and then you have staff. And staff are the folks that work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week or more to actually do what needs to get done. Because if it was just the board, nothing would get done. We physically do not do enough to drive the party. Most of it's staff. Of course, you know, Angela and I have some disagreements on, you know, what that might look like, or how things should be run or managed or administrated. And that's really been key to my impetus to run is, you know, I have a background in business. I've been in the hospitality business my entire life. I was born into a business family. I currently oversee 10 Wendy's, a Dairy Queen, and the Island Grill in Alamorada. Plus we have a movie theater. So, you know, several hundred employees, you know, certainly the responsibility, but we're also very successful at what we do. And I think if you're going to do something, you should be the best at it. And so there's different experience that comes with different people, and that yields different results. And that's why I am offering myself up to serve the party in the capacity with the skills and knowledge that I have, to try something different, to do things a different way, to apply my experience to the current situation and have, you know, provide a different result essentially. So that's, you know, that's been the driving force between my want to run, is I want to see things being run a little bit differently.
Fair enough. Quick follow-up. If you don't win chair, are you running for re-election as at-large?
Yes, I would run for re-election for at-large. I would still continue my mission on the board. You can't get rid of me that easy.
All right. Regardless of who wins chair?
Regardless.
All right.
I'm going with anybody.
All right. Mr. Rutherford, the main objection that I've heard for you is that you're a little bit on the elderly side and a little bit boring and not quite so tech savvy. Be that what it may, how do you plan to handle, interviews with new and old media, as well as, this, getting the kind of technical side of the party back in order?
Like I do now. I deal with all types of technology, but usually I'm able, because of where I'm working, for who I'm working for in behalf, to have people. I can't know everything, and I've learned an awful lot. So you get people around to do it, as much as you can in the universe that you're in, working on these things. So I'm involved in all types of stuff in Indiana. The publicity, I'm on TV, I'm on radio, I do podcasts, etc. And I'm called a lot about it because I'm one of the people known as a libertarian, and people recognizing we have good ideas here. And I get on there and I keep doing that. I've been doing that for years. So the age, really what it means is I've got lots of experience. I've been on so many boards, run and been chair or president, or whatever you want to call it, of lots of boards. I've taken boards like in this circumstance, where the current group hasn't done what needs to be done, and and then taken it and moved it to where it's become very, very successful. It takes time, it takes patience, but I have that background to do it. And what you learn about it is, one, I can't do everything, I can't run everything, and you have to have people to help you, and you have to get staff especially to help you, because their job is to be the person who does it day to day for whatever many hours that you're agreed upon to do it. So the age is really not relevant at all, other than that I've got more time to experience this, know how to do it, and bring in all different types of things and people and systems, etc., that are out there that can do it. The national chair shouldn't be running the social media. The national chair should be running the Libertarian National Committee. And by that means making sure that they are able to make decisions and do the decisions, and then making sure that you work with the staff to implement them and work with the volunteers to implement them. I think my experience, my age is very, very helpful right now for the Libertarian National Committee and for the Libertarian Party.
Valid. I honestly, I guess that shows me some ignorance. I didn't know that you got on all of those interviews. I haven't.
Yeah, I do all the time.
I'm definitely. I feel like I know a bunch of libertarians, and that it's a small niche group, and I've met most of the people, and like I've never met either of you. You meet awesome, successful people in the movement every day. It's really encouraging. But every day I'm like, man, how did I not know about this person?
We have a lot of people who do a lot of things.
All right, I promised you guys an hour, and it's been like an hour 20, so I will give you kind of a combined last question. Give me your 1 month, 6 month, and year plans, and how you want to roll it out, what you want to do, and then kind of final words ish. Steven.
So 1 month, get in there. We're gonna have our first LNC meeting at convention. Work really hard with staff, get to know them. That would, first off, whoever is going to be the next chair is probably going to be the executive director for at least the foreseeable future, till we can hire somebody in or promote somebody from the inside. So working with staff, getting a feeler for how the operations are being run, seeing how things can be improved, helping, assisting, getting, settling into the role. We're going to be having our next LNC meeting, I think, in August. Like to have a really good game planning sesh, get people, get the goals down, get us aligned, figure out our metrics, get us engaged, and really, really focus on goal setting, but also get to know each other and get to know the board, and meet the new board, right? But really focus on the goal, because if you don't have a unified goal, then things start to fractionize and people start to worry more about their self-interest than the interest of the group. So we got to keep people engaged in, hey, this is our goal. These are our metrics. Here's what I need you to do. So everybody is locked in and, you know, they're competing and they're not fighting. And then I would say within the next 6 months, 9 months, every quarter, we want to look back at our goals that we created in the first quarter. It doesn't have to be, you know, 72 pages of goals. Just has to be, you know, here's 3 to 5 things, whatever it is. Here's our goals. You know, let's measure them. Let's look back, see, are we improving on fundraising? Are we improving on membership? What's our retention rate? What's our, you know, blah, blah, blah. And go through the list of things and constantly keep that level of communication up to know that, hey, you know, this is what we're working on. Are we doing better? Are we doing worse? We need to readjust, you know, what's up? And then go from there. And then hopefully 9 months we'll be, you know, we'll be making more money. We'll be cranking out, you know, having more people on staff. We'll be solid on fundraising. We'll have won the presidential nominee, and we'll be, you know, getting the country on track and spreading libertarianism. You know, the reason I'm doing this is because I love the cause. I love the movement. I think libertarians are a great, intelligent group of people. There's not many people like us. And to be honest, it's like Black Hawk Down. There's no one coming. It's up to us. So it's for us. It's for
our corny as fuck.
Yeah, it probably was. But it's true. I mean, you know, it's you know, it's for our future. It's for our kids' future. I mean, you know, I don't there's that saying, like, you know, freedom within our lifetimes, but I don't think in 20 years we're going to be sitting around drinking champagne saying, hey, we really won and took the fight to them and it's all over. No, it's a constant battle. It's a constant fight that'll never end. So, you know, if we want our kids to live in a better world, if we want to live in a better world, you know, we got to fight tooth and nail to be that centrifugal force of liberty that the Libertarian Party was meant to be. And I see that in the younger generation, more and more identifying with libertarianism, being libertarians. And I think that's only going to snowball and continue to get bigger and bigger. So, you know, one day I really do believe we're going to be in the limelight and we're going to be, you know, I mean, we're already a threat, but even more of a threat, even more effective. We have to be ready when that time comes. And, you know, I'm willing to help pitch in my time, labor, and effort to help move the ball forward. And I would invite everyone to consider me for your vote for chair come DC.
Hell yeah. Mark.
Problem with timelines is they'll change dramatically, but you do have to have some idea and then change with the as things are happening. But
ideal scenario.
Pardon?
That's an ideal scenario.
Ideal scenario, exactly. But you do these timelines because they do help you move forward and see where you're at, where you're not doing well, where you need to make changes, etc. But the national chair can't be the executive director. And we're a national organization. We've got to have somebody who serves that role, even if it's just temporary, who's paid staffer. That's the first priority, is to get that done, to start getting the staff built. And that's what you do. I've done that with other organizations. And that's the first thing that you do, is you get the key #1 staff, because everything grows from whoever that person is, if you have the right person for the time to do that and to work with them. That's #1. That you do that as quickly as you can, but you do it in a way where you can get the job done and you can get somebody that will be good for what you need right now. Other things that could be done, of course, get the paper one going out again, find the resources to make sure you do that. You've got to work with everybody on the Libertarian National Committee, talk about my expectations. It may not be theirs, so at least we all know where we're coming from. Sometimes our expectations will be very similar. You've got to work with that, and you've got to do that. And what you have to do is, the National Party's one of its primary obligations is to support the presidential candidate, the presidential nominee. And no matter who that is, that's what my job as a Libertarian National Committee chair is to do, is to work with the Libertarian National Committee to do what we can in the best way we can to try to help make that as successful as possible. So that's that's your 6-month goal right there. And then after a year, do you have everything in place? Do you have the things that have been let go, that haven't been done, that have diminished dramatically over the last couple of years? Do you get those back and going in the right direction? And that's the messaging. You don't have to be spiteful. You don't have to be repulsive, but you have to have something that is committed to our principles, but something that people can understand. You've got to be working on that. You've got to be working on the management. That's a key thing as chair, is that the staff and the Libertarian National Committee are working together, goal setting is set, and they're being evaluated. And you have to have, I mean, you've got to have a HR director now if you're going to be, especially if you're a national committee and doing what needs to be done. And you've got to work with the executive director and have the executive director find the right person for that. You just can't have a strong national party unless you get all those things done. And by strong, supporting the states, doing what needs to be done to make sure that their candidates are the one that's spreading the word about the goodness of libertarianism, how it can be done, and getting on boards, committees, elected, appointed, however. So that's just a real brief rundown on what I expect. There'll be a lot of phone call, a lot of talking to people, a lot of getting money, a lot of getting things done and organized so that it begins to function where it needs to be functioning.
I like it. If you guys have like a website, social media, how people can reach out to you, Mark.
Yeah, hold on a second here. I just accidentally closed the information on that, and I'll get it up right now.
While you're waiting, Stephen.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can find me
I
on
can go ahead if you want to. I've just got it right now. The website is Rutherford Chair LNC nationbuilder.com. Rutherford Chair LNC nationbuilder.com. And I made a mistake. Between LNC, there's a period, then nationbuilder, then .com. The Facebook page is Rutherford 4, the number 4, a Chair LNC. Again, that's Rutherford 4 Chair LNC.
Nekhaila.
Find me online. Go on Facebook, Stephen Nekhaila -Libertarian, or you can just hit me up on my personal too. I am on Twitter, although I never use it. And if you want to shoot,
I noticed that.
Yeah,
I went through your Twitter today. I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm already in
2018, 2012. What the or you could email me, stephen.nekhaila@lp.org, or that's pretty much everybody's online these days. So hit me up if you want to schedule a call, if you want to talk more. I'm interested in hearing from everybody, hearing what your thoughts are and what your thoughts in the LP are. So more than happy to connect with anybody who's interested in having a phone call or a conversation.
Hell yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for doing this. I can say that I like you guys both more now than I did when we started. So I'm sure that resonated with at least some viewers. So thanks again. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, make sure you're clicking that like and the follow button, since we're all over on Rumble anyway. There's a bunch of you here. Thank you for doing that migration over. But I bet most of you don't follow me on Rumble, so hit that follow. The channel's all there. All Free Speech Media Network is over here. You can find Ben Weir's show, Shut the Punk Up. You can find Fight Club, Fight for Liberty. All of it's here over on Rumble. So follow that. And then go check out these two wonderful gentlemen and Angela and see the awesome work that they've been doing. And I hope to see you all in DC. Until next time, keep up the fight.
Awesome. Thanks, David.
Thank you, David.
This is FSM.